Hey everyone, and welcome back. It's Gina from orchidandopal.com, and today I am back to share with you a tutorial for this round component that I have whipped up in some different styles using beads from the recent Sunflower Bliss collection that I put together with Eureka Crystal Beads. And the thing about these components, they're just so versatile. So I wanted to just show you what they'd look like if you alternated them with another type of beaded component. This little diamond I haven't shared with you yet, but I will try to come back and share that one in a separate video. But with this round component, you could link these directly together and make necklaces, bracelets, put some other type of bead in between and string these together. You could make a set of earrings, maybe with a beaded component like the smaller diamond and the round one underneath if you weave those together. So I just wanted to give you the tutorial for the actual component itself so you can learn how to make that and have fun using that in any way you'd like. Even if it's a single pendant, that would work too. So in the Sunflower Bliss collection, there were several different colors of crystals. There were some jet black Rivolis and also a couple of Chatons in different colors. But we're going to be working with an 8mm size stone, and you can use any one of those that you'd like. And as far as other beads, as you can see here, you'll want a variety of size 11/0 rounds. I've got the dark bronze ones here. I've also got different options for 15/0 rounds. I've got these in the light matte gold, and also that Miyuki mix that has all types of color options. We'll of course be using some more of those 2-hole Czech glass bar beads. And then I'm going to be pulling from some of the 11/0 Delicas in the mix. And there, of course, are some of the crystal stones that were in that collection that you can choose from. So you can pick out different colors and use them accordingly. And I also just thought it was kind of cool if you made them up in different colors and used them together. It'd be kind of a interesting element all on its own. That would add some unique flair to a piece. They'd all be just a little bit different, but coordinating with their colors in general. So you can have fun with these components. And if you'll be making one of these along with me today, go ahead and pull your materials as well as some sturdy 0.006 inch diameter beading thread like the 6-pound Fireline that I'll be using today. I'm going to cut off about a 4 to 5 inch length of that. And I'm going to be using a size 11 beading needle. So go ahead and get all those items together and then we can jump into this tutorial. All right, so we're going to start out with our 2-hole bar beads and we're going to pull 16 of these together into a loop. I'm just going to sew directly through one of the holes of these and put 16 of them onto my needle and thread. And you're welcome to use a stop bead if you'd like to. I'm just gonna string these down and pull them all together without one at this point. I've got my first batch here loaded up and pulling those down, leaving a 6-inch or so tail. I've got 11. All right, so a total of 16, bringing those all down. And these are the same color on both sides, so I don't have to worry about which hole that I'm going through or anything. And you're gonna want to form these into a loop by sewing through the same hole of that first one that you added on. And holding onto my tail thread while I pull the needle, I'm going to form those into a loop just like this. And I'm going to make a real quick half-hitch knot right next to the bead that I am currently coming out of to loosely secure the thread in place instead of using a stop bead at this time. That is just something I'm very used to doing. And you want to pull those beads together, but not too tight. What we're going to do next is sew through that next bar bead next to our knot. And in between every 2 bar beads, we're going to pick up an 11/0 and then sew through the next 2. So once again, pick up an 11-0 and sew through the next 2 bar beads, going through that same exact hole and pulling tight. And just repeat that all the way around. So you're going to end up with a total of 8 clusters of bar beads and also 8 of the seed beads on this ring. And the reason we didn't add the seed beads in the first place is just because it actually starts to allow this loop to tighten up even more. Adding these secondarily won't be that noticeable, but that is the way that I found that I got the best results when creating the bezel to go around that little crystal. So there's the 7th seed bead, and then number 8, picking that up and then sewing through those next 2 bar beads and ending by coming out of the original 11-0 that we started adding in that step. And pull everything nice and tight. And this is where you can pull out some of your size 11-0 Miyuki Delicas from the mix. And I'll be using that really bright orange color around this bezel. Coming out of that seed bead there, what we want to do first is we'll pick up one of those beads, and you're welcome to use the orange or any other color you'd like. You can also mix them up however you want, so feel free to be creative with that. But I went through that seed bead again, and I'm just looping a Delica and attaching that directly to the seed bead below. After you do that and you're coming out of the seed bead again, just go through the next 2 bar beads and the next seed bead and do the exact same thing. So just pick up a Delica and sew back through that original seed bead again. I'm also in the same step going to go through the next 2 bar beads and the next seed bead, which positions everything in place for the next one. And you can just use your needle and position that Delica right over top of the seed bead. And you're going to do that all the way around. So I'm going to do that 6 more times. And after that, I'm also going to add a needle onto my tail thread and just weave that back around a little bit to hide that in order to get it out of the way for this video. So once I have all those 8 Delicas in place and my tail thread is taken care of, we'll meet back and we can continue on with our next step. All right, so you should have something that looks similar to this, and I'm coming out of that last seed bead for the addition of the last Delica, which I'm picking up, going through that seed bead again. I'll go in this direction, attach that, and then what I'm going to do coming out of this next seed bead with the Delica in place, I'm going to step up and sew through the next Delica bead. So that positions us in place for our next step, and that's where you can pull out some of your size 15-0 seed beads. I'll pull from this mix to complete this component, and you'll also want to have some of your size 11 round seed beads to use soon as well. So in looking at this mix, I think I'm just going to pick out the opaque tan color, and whichever color you decide to use, or colors, I'm going to pick up 5 of the 15-0s, just like you see here. And then going back to our piece, you're going to look for that very next Delica that you come to and sew through that one. And just position those 15-0s on top of the bar beads. This will come together better as we go, but just get those in place. And this is what you're going to do all the way around, adding in 5 of your 15-0s in between each of those Delicas. So I'm going to pick up my next group, just like that, and sew through the next Delica bead. Pull tight, and you get the idea. So keep going all the way around, adding in your sets of 5 seed beads in between each Delica. We've got 6 more of those groups to go. And at that point, I'll meet you back and we will pick up from there. And welcome back. So I've got those last 5 strung on, and I'm going to go ahead and sew through the next Delica bead. But I'm also going to sew through the next 3 15-0 seed beads that we had just added. And this is where those 11-0s are going to come in. What we're going to do is pick up one 11-0, and then going to your next section of size 15-0 seed beads you just added, we're going to go through just the center seed bead. So look for that third one that comes up next, and we'll pop in our 11-0 right in between. You can pull that, and that's what we're going to do all the way around at this point. Picking up an 11-0 and looking for that central or third 15-0 in the next grouping, and then pull. This is the part that is going to hold our crystal in place. So it's going to form the very top and center of this component. We have 6 more to go all the way around, and it'll start to come together as we have all those beads in place. But you can see how it's starting to pinch these sections of 5, and the Delicas are kind of sticking out in little points. So let's keep going. And we're on our last one, so we're going to pick up the 15-0 where we started, just that single one. And you can continue sewing around that entire loop of beads to strengthen the section and to really bring these together into a round shape. You want that to be nice and strong to hold the crystal in place. So that's where we're reinforcing our section. So just go through a few beads at a time and pull it all together. And you want to go through everything here at least one time. And take your time just making sure you're going through just the beads that you need to. We're just going to be alternating the 11-0s and 15-0s on this loop basically. And once you've done that, you should have something that looks sort of like this. And I'm going to go until my needle is coming out of one of the 11-0s on that central ring. And then I'm going to weave my way through the beads following the thread path. So I'm going down those 2 15-0s. Then I'll go over by sewing through the Delica there. And finally, I'm going to come out of the 11-0 that's next to that. So I'm going to sew in the opposite direction, going through that 11-0, which is where I'll then flip the piece over. And we're going to add in the seed beads that are going to enclose the back of our stone. So coming out of one of those 11-0s right there, I'm going to pick up 2 11-0s. I'm going to pick up another one of those orange Delicas. By the way, you're welcome to use anything here. You could use the same color 11-0s in this step if you want to, but I think that using the Delica helps the center of this grouping to stand out, which might be helpful on the next part of this step. So with those 5 beads in place, I'm going to skip over the next 2 bar beads, and I'm going to sew directly through the next seed bead, 2 bar beads, and the next seed bead. You're going to pull those so that they sit just on top of those bar beads, like that. And we're going to do this 3 more times. So coming out of this seed bead now, just like we did before, pick up 2 11-0s. 1 Delica, and 2 11-0s. Bring those down, and then you're going to sew through the next seed bead that you get to. And then in that next grouping, you'll sew through the next 2 bar beads and through the next seed bead. And just pulling those so that they're going to sit right on top of the bar beads. There we go. So we've got 2 of those sections in place, and we're set up to do our next one. I'm going to do that 2 more times. And once I'm on that 4th one, you can see they're kind of skipping every other cluster of 2. At that point, we can bring in our crystal and get that tightly woven into place. So keep adding those little sections of seed beads to the back 2 more times, and I'll see you in just a moment. All right, so I pulled one of my crystals out, and I'm coming out of the 11-0 right here, which brings us back to where we started the step. At this point, we can sew through the next 2 11-0s and through the next Delica. And pull that nice and tight. We can insert our crystal face down into the center of our beadwork, just like that. And we're going to work on securing that in place. We'll be using a few more of our 11-0s at this point. And coming out of that Delica, I'm going to pick up 2 more of the 11-0 seed beads, and then look at the next section that we just added and sew through the next Delica bead that you get to, just that single bead, and pull, and repeat that 3 more times. So 2 seed beads, sew through the next Delica, and this will get tighter as we go. For now, it's going to still be loose. You're just getting those beads in place. All right, our next 2, and sewing through the next Delica, gently starting to pull that together. And then our final 2 for that section, and sew through the next Delica bead. Start pulling that tight. And you'll have something that looks like this, which we can now sew around just that center area that we just added in, and that'll reinforce the back and hold our crystal in place. So I'm just holding that with my thumb and my forefinger and pulling this tight as I go. And around each of these sides, going through the 2 seed beads and then the Delica, holding that together and pulling. And you can make sure you go through that back section at least 2 more times to tighten that up and really reinforce the crystal in its place. As you can see, the center of the crystal should be right in the center of that little square shape. That's how you'll know you have that in place correctly, but it should fall there naturally as you are sewing this section, just like this. So here's a look at the back of our piece so far, and I'm coming out of that Delica there. And right now I'm just going to follow the thread path, sewing through those next 2 seed beads. And then I'm going to sew through the seed bead right next to the bar beads. And I'll sew through those next 2 bar beads as well. My needle wanted to go through the next 11-0, and instead of trying to force it not to, I just went ahead and went through it. And I'm going to back up now so that it's not coming out of that single 11-0, but just coming out of the bar beads. And we want to step up to the outer holes of the bar beads. So this is the point where we're actually going to go in the opposite direction. So through the open hole of the 2 bar beads, and we can flip our piece back over. You can see our crystals in place, looking all beautiful. And we're ready to just fill in these outer sections in between the bar beads. I'm going to pull out some of these 15-0s again and use the same opaque tan color that we did before on the top for this next area, but you can use any 15-0s that you'd like. We're also going to use a few more of our 11-0 beads. So from here, I'm going to pick up 2 of the 15-0s and sew through the next bar beads. And we're going to repeat that all the way around 7 more times. So 2 15-0s and sew through the bar beads. And when you get back to the beginning, you'll sew through the bar beads like you were, and also sew through the next 15-0, just one of those. So that outer area is going to be a little loose at the moment, and I'm coming out of that 15-0. And in between each of these 2 15-0s, we're going to be adding in one of our 11-0s. So you can go ahead and get those out. And we'll pick up an 11-0, then sew through our next 15-0, 2 bar beads, and a 15-0. And repeat that now all the way around. Got 7 more to do, picking up an 11-0 and going through the next 4 beads. You can see it also creates that area where the 11-0s stick out in the center since we're adding them in last, just like this. You can start to pull this a little bit tighter as you go, but these 11-0s should also fill in that gap that was left in the previous step. And we're on our last one. So picking that up, sewing through those next 4 beads, just as you can see here. And that is all of our beads in place for one of these components. And all we need to do now is just reinforce that outer section. So you're going to sew around the outer beads once again. And you don't have to pull it too tight. You just don't want any gaps in your beadwork, of course. And then once you do that, you can make a couple of half hitch knots. I'll do one here next to this 11-0, going under the thread bridge, creating a loop and sewing through the loop, hiding my thread right there. Then I'll continue sewing through a few more beads, and you'll repeat that a couple times, at which point you can then trim off your remaining working thread. And you can tighten up any other areas you feel that you might need to. Mine feels pretty good though. And that completes this unique beaded component that can be used in so many different ways. So that wraps it up for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and can come up with some fun ways to use this component. And if you'd like to share them with me, feel free to do that and tag me on social media. I'd love to check them out. Like I said, I will try to come back and show you how to make the smaller diamond-shaped component that you see down below as well. In the meantime, I hope you have fun with this very versatile design. And if you decide to make one of these components and incorporate this into a finished piece, please feel free to leave a comment down below. It's always great to hear from you, and I'm sure that others will be inspired to hear about it as well. As a reminder, you can get all the materials you need to make these components and much more at Eureka Crystal Beads, particularly in the Sunflower Bliss collection, which I will have linked right down below the video in the description section. And I'll also have the full list of materials and product links down there as well. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up and also share it with your other beading friends. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to my channel while you're here because I'd love to have you back. That wraps it up for now, though. I hope to see you again real soon, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. And as always, happy beading.